Picture this: one of the mightiest empires in the Americas, home to millions of inhabitants, stretching across thousands of miles of mountains, jungles, and coastlines. Now imagine this vast civilization being brought to its knees by fewer than 200 men. Sounds impossible, doesn't it? In the early 16th century, the Inca Empire was at its peak. Their architectural marvels like Machu Picchu stood testament to their advanced civilization. Their network of roads rivaled that of ancient Rome. Their military numbered in the tens of thousands. Yet somehow, a small band of Spanish conquistadors led by Francisco Pizarro managed to topple this powerful empire in a matter of months. But how? The answer lies in a perfect storm of betrayal, disease, and an insatiable hunger for gold. This isn't just another historical tale. It's one of the most astounding and tragic stories of the modern age. At its heart stands a pivotal moment, a seemingly innocent meeting in a town called Cajamarca that would change the course of history forever. On that fateful day in November 1532, two worlds collided. One was ancient, rich in tradition, and deeply spiritual. The other was driven by conquest, greed, and religious fervor. What happened next would send shockwaves through time, reshaping not just South America, but the entire world. Think about it: steel against stone, horses against foot soldiers, gunpowder against arrows. But the real weapon? It wasn't what you might expect. The Spanish had something far more powerful than their advanced military technology. They had perfect timing, taking advantage of a civil war that had left the empire vulnerable. They had diseases that would devastate the indigenous population. And most crucially, they had a ruthless strategy that would exploit the Incas' own customs and beliefs against them. What unfolded in the following months would become one of history's most dramatic tales of conquest. It's a story of cultural collision, military genius, and tragic miscalculation. It's about how a vast empire fell not just to superior weapons, but to cunning, deception, and circumstances that seemed almost designed for its destruction. Are you ready to uncover the secrets behind this extraordinary conquest? To understand how a handful of adventurers managed to overcome one of the world's most sophisticated civilizations? To discover how this single event set in motion changes that would reshape the Americas forever? Join us as we peel back the layers of this incredible story. You'll never look at the conquest of the Americas the same way again. What you're about to learn isn't just history. It's a masterclass in how empires fall, how cultures clash, and how the world as we know it was formed in the crucible of conquest and ambition. Stay with us, because this story of the Inca Empire's fall will challenge everything you thought you knew about conquest, power, and the price of gold. Want to discover how this moment forever changed the course of history? Activate the bell, leave your like and subscribe to Modern Age Chronicles to embark on this unique journey through the modern age. November 16th, 1532. The air hung heavy over Cajamarca, a small city nestled in the Peruvian Andes. Under overcast skies, an event was about to unfold that would alter the course of an entire continent. This wasn't just another meeting between two leaders. It was the moment that would seal the fate of the largest empire in pre-Columbian America. Picture the scene: the Grand Plaza of Cajamarca, surrounded by ancient stone buildings. The afternoon sun struggling to pierce through the clouds. In the shadows of the colonial architecture, Francisco Pizarro and his 168 men wait in perfect silence. Their armor gleaming dully in the filtered light, their horses restless, their arquebus loaded. These men, thousands of miles from home, are about to attempt something unprecedented in military history. Approaching the plaza is Atahualpa, the supreme ruler of the Inca Empire. He arrives in full ceremonial splendor, carried on a golden litter, surrounded by thousands of unarmed nobles and attendants. The Inca Emperor had agreed to this peaceful meeting, believing he was welcoming foreign diplomats. He couldn't have known that he was walking into one of history's most perfectly executed traps. The tension in the air was electric. Pizarro's men, hidden in the buildings surrounding the plaza, could hardly believe their own audacity. Their plan was almost absurdly ambitious: to capture the divine ruler of an empire of millions in broad daylight, in the midst of his own territory. It was either tactical genius or suicidal madness, and they were about to find out which. What happened next would become one of the most dramatic turning points in world history. In a matter of minutes, the plaza would transform from a scene of diplomatic ceremony to one of chaos and bloodshed. The Spanish orchestrated what military historians now consider one of the most ambitious and successful ambushes ever executed. This wasn't just a battle, it was a collision of worlds. On one side stood the sophisticated Inca civilization, with its complex social structure, advanced architecture, and vast network of roads and cities. On the other, a small band of Spanish conquistadors armed with steel, gunpowder, and an unwavering determination to claim this land for their king and their god. The events that unfolded in Cajamarca that day would ripple through time, fundamentally changing not just South America, but the entire world. It marked the beginning of the end for one of humanity's most fascinating civilizations, and the start of an era that would reshape the Americas forever. As we delve deeper into this pivotal moment, you'll discover how a handful of men managed to bring down an empire of millions, how cultural misunderstandings led to catastrophic consequences, and how this single afternoon in Cajamarca became the fulcrum upon which the fate of two civilizations balanced. Want to understand how the Inca Empire fell and what this meant for the world? Want to explore one of history's most dramatic moments of cultural collision? This is more than just a story of conquest. It's a tale that reveals the fragility of power, the price of underestimation, and the moments that changed the course of human history forever. Francisco Pizarro emerged from the humblest of beginnings to become one of history's most consequential conquerors. Born around 1478 in Trujillo, Spain, he was the illegitimate son of a military officer who never acknowledged him. As a child, he reportedly worked as a swineherd, unable to read or write. This early life of poverty and rejection forged in him an unquenchable desire for power, wealth, and recognition that would drive his later conquests. Despite his lack of formal education, Pizarro possessed a razor-sharp cunning and remarkable leadership abilities. He learned warfare in the brutal campaigns of the Italian wars, developing the tactical skills that would later serve him in Peru. By the time he embarked on his conquest of the Inca Empire, he was already in his 50s, an age when most men of his era would have been considered elderly. Yet his ambition burned brighter than ever, fueled by tales of golden cities and vast riches. On the other side stood Atahualpa, the last independent Sapa Inca, Emperor of the Tumultuous Empire. Born into divine royalty, he was considered a living god by his people. Unlike Pizarro's rough-hewn background, Atahualpa was raised in sophistication and power, educated in military strategy, politics, and the complex religious practices of his people. He spoke Quechua and could command armies with a single gesture. However, Atahualpa's position was precarious. He had just emerged victorious from a devastating civil war against his half-brother Huáscar, a conflict that had torn the empire apart. This internal strife had weakened the empire's defenses and fractured its unity precisely when it needed strength the most. Though a brilliant military strategist who had led his armies to victory, Atahualpa would find himself facing a threat unlike anything in Inca history. But the story isn't just about these two legendary figures. There were others whose roles were crucial, yet often overlooked. Consider Felipillo, the young interpreter whose mistranslations, some say deliberate, contributed to fatal misunderstandings between the Spanish and Inca leaders. Or Hernando de Soto, Pizarro's cavalry commander, whose daring reconnaissance missions provided crucial intelligence about Inca movements. On the Inca side, there were noble warriors like Calcaquima, one of Atahualpa's most trusted generals, who continued fighting even after his emperor's capture. The Inca women also played vital roles, particularly the Nustas, princesses, who became crucial intermediaries between the two cultures. The Spanish conquistadors themselves were a complex group. Many were veterans of European wars, seeking glory and gold in the New World. Others were younger sons of noble families, shut out from inheritance and desperate to make their fortunes. Some, like Hernando Pizarro, Francisco's brother, were skilled diplomats as well as warriors. Others, like Juan Pizarro, would meet violent ends in the conquest they helped launch. Among the Inca people, we find equally compelling stories. The Quipucameacs, keepers of the knotted cord records called quipus, struggled to preserve their people's history as their world crumbled. The Acla virgins, chosen women who served in religious roles, faced the destruction of their sacred way of life. Common soldiers on both sides grappled with fear, duty, and survival in a conflict that would reshape their world. These characters, from the highest ruler to the lowliest soldier, were caught in a historical moment of unprecedented cultural collision. Their individual choices, fears, and ambitions combined to create one of history's most dramatic narratives. Understanding their personal stories helps us grasp not just the events of the conquest, but its human dimension, the hopes, fears, and motivations that drove people to actions that would echo through centuries. Their legacy lives on in the DNA of modern Peru, in its mixed culture, and in the countless stories passed down through generations. They remind us that history isn't just about grand events and famous names. It's about human beings, with all their complexities, making decisions that would change the world forever. Picture yourself standing in the ancient city of Cusco, the beating heart of the Inca Empire. The crisp mountain air fills your lungs as you gaze upon the magnificent Andes, their snow-capped peaks piercing the clouds like ancient guardians watching over the realm. The stone walls of perfectly fitted blocks rise around you, testament to Inca engineering genius, each massive boulder placed with such precision that not even a blade of grass could fit between them. The rhythmic sound of drums echoes through the narrow streets, bouncing off the walls of sacred temples and royal palaces. These are not the celebratory beats of festivals past, but rather the anxious tempo of a civilization on edge. In the distance, the haunting sound of patutos, ceremonial conch shell horns, carries warnings from mountain to mountain, their deep resonance speaking of approaching danger. In Cusco's main square, the Huacallipata, life continues but with an undercurrent of tension. Merchants in their colorful ponchos lay out their wares, brilliant textiles woven with intricate geometric patterns, ceramic vessels painted with sacred symbols, and fresh produce from the fertile Sacred Valley. The air is rich with the aroma of cooking corn, roasted meat, and the smoke from countless cooking fires. Priests in their ceremonial attire hurry between temples, their gold and silver ornaments catching the intense Andean sunlight. But today, the usual market chatter is overshadowed by urgent whispers. Tales spread of strange beings approaching from the coast, men covered in shining metal, riding massive beasts never before seen in these lands. The Spanish conquistadors' armor gleams like captured sunlight, their steel weapons unlike anything in the Inca arsenal. The horses, creatures that would later be mistaken for gods, send tremors through the earth with each thundering hoofbeat. In the sacred temples, smoke from burning offerings rises to the heavens as priests seek guidance from their gods. The sweet scent of coca leaves and the pungent aroma of ceremonial herbs mingle with the cool mountain air. Women in fine cloth garments weave by doorways, their fingers moving swiftly through the threads while their eyes frequently scan the horizon. Children who would normally play in the streets now stay close to their mothers, sensing the adults' growing unease. As day turns to dusk, the setting sun paints the stone walls in shades of gold and crimson. The temperature drops sharply, as it always does in these high altitudes. Cooking fires begin to dot the landscape, their smoke creating a hazy veil over the city. In the royal quarters, nobles gather in heated discussion, their elaborate headgear and gold jewelry marking their high status. They debate the meaning of recent omens, strange weather patterns, unexpected eclipses, and troubling dreams that the holy men cannot interpret. Through the maze of streets, messengers run with urgent reports. Their sandaled feet slap against the stone pavements as they carry news of the approaching Spanish force. In the military quarters, warriors sharpen obsidian-edged weapons and check their cotton armor, not yet knowing these defenses will prove futile against Spanish steel and gunpowder. The city itself seems to hold its breath, suspended between its glorious past and an uncertain future. The massive walls of the Sacsayhuaman fortress loom above, its zigzag battlements a symbol of Inca military might. Yet even this engineering marvel would soon face a test unlike any its builders could have imagined. In the markets, the smell of fear mingles with the aroma of spices and cooking fires. Merchants trade in hushed tones, some already planning to hide their most valuable goods. The great plaza, normally filled with the sounds of commerce and celebration, now buzzes with nervous energy as people gather in small groups, sharing the latest rumors of the approaching strangers. This is Cusco on the eve of conquest, a civilization at its peak, unaware that it stands on the brink of transformation. The air is thick with possibility and dread, as two vastly different worlds prepare to collide in one of history's most dramatic encounters. The story of the Inca Empire's downfall begins like a tale of destiny and greed. In 1524, Francisco Pizarro first heard whispers of a magnificent empire in the south, where gold was so abundant that its rulers dined from golden plates and decorated their temples with precious metals. These stories, carried north by traders and travelers, painted a picture of unimaginable wealth that would drive Pizarro to mount 3 separate expeditions. When Pizarro finally reached the Inca territories in 1532, he discovered something even more valuable than gold, an empire divided against itself. The timing couldn't have been more perfect for the Spanish conquistadors. A bitter civil war raged between two royal brothers, Atahualpa and Huáscar, each claiming the right to rule. This internal conflict had already weakened the empire's defenses and fractured its unity, creating the perfect conditions for conquest. The pivotal moment came at Cajamarca, in what would become one of history's most audacious military ambushes. Atahualpa, fresh from his victory over his brother, agreed to meet with the Spanish in what he believed would be a diplomatic encounter. Instead, on November 16, 1532, Pizarro sprung his trap. With just 168 men, he managed to capture the emperor of an empire of millions in broad daylight, surrounded by thousands of Inca warriors. What followed was perhaps history's largest ransom demand. The Spanish promised to free Atahualpa in exchange for enough gold to fill a room 22 feet long by 17 feet wide up to a height of over 8 feet. The Inca people, believing their god-king's life was at stake, stripped their temples and palaces of gold and silver, creating a treasure trove worth over $100 million in today's currency. Yet even after receiving this enormous ransom, the Spanish broke their promise. On July 26, 1533, they executed Atahualpa by garrote, a death that would send shockwaves through the empire. The Inca people, who believed their emperor was a living god, watched in horror as their divine ruler was killed by foreign invaders. The fall of Cusco, the imperial capital, followed shortly after. Despite fierce resistance led by Inca generals and later by Manco Inca, who launched a massive rebellion in 1536, the Spanish conquest proved unstoppable. The combination of superior weapons, horses, and most devastatingly, European diseases that decimated the native population, sealed the empire's fate. The aftermath was catastrophic. Within a generation, the largest empire in pre-Columbian America had been transformed into a Spanish colony. Millions died from violence, disease, and the collapse of the sophisticated Inca administrative system that had kept the empire fed and organized. The Spanish systematically destroyed Inca religious sites, building their churches atop sacred temples in a physical and symbolic conquest of Inca culture. Yet the story doesn't end with conquest. The Inca legacy persisted through underground resistance movements, preserved traditions, and the survival of Quechua, the imperial language still spoken by millions today. The Spanish might have conquered the empire, but they couldn't entirely erase the civilization that built Machu Picchu and created one of history's most sophisticated societies. The tale of the Inca conquest remains one of history's most dramatic examples of how quickly an empire can fall when faced with the perfect storm of internal division, technological disadvantage, and ruthless determination from its opponents. It's a story that continues to resonate today, raising questions about power, cultural preservation, and the true cost of conquest. Can you imagine witnessing these world-changing events? What would it have been like to stand in Cajamarca's plaza as these two civilizations collided? How would you have felt watching the end of an empire that had stood for centuries? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us explore together this pivotal moment in human history. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to join us on more journeys through history's most fascinating moments. What other historical events would you like us to explore? Let us know in the comments section below. The story of the Inca conquest comes to us through a rich tapestry of historical sources, each offering unique perspectives on this world-changing event. Through careful examination of these documents, artifacts, and archaeological findings, we can piece together a comprehensive understanding of what truly happened during this pivotal period in history. Primary Spanish sources. The conquest's most immediate accounts come from the Spanish themselves. Francisco Pizarro's letters to the Spanish crown provide first-hand testimony of the conquest's progress. Though Pizarro himself was illiterate, his scribes recorded his detailed reports, offering invaluable insights into the conquistadors' strategies, motivations, and perceptions of the Inca people. The Chronicle of Pedro Sancho, Pizarro's secretary, provides a meticulous account of the capture of Cusco and the early colonial period. His detailed descriptions of Inca architecture, customs, and military organization have proven invaluable to historians. Similarly, the accounts of Pedro Pizarro, Francisco's cousin, offer intimate details of the conquest from someone who witnessed it firsthand. Spanish missionaries, particularly the Dominican and Jesuit orders, left extensive records of their observations. The most notable among these is Friar Vicente de Valverde, who was present at the infamous meeting in Cajamarca. His letters to King Charles V provide crucial details about the interaction between Atahualpa and the Spanish forces. Bartolomé de las Casas, though never in Peru himself, compiled extensive documentation about the conquest's impact on indigenous populations, drawing from first-hand accounts and testimonies. His brief account of the destruction of the Indies provides a scathing critique of the conquistadors' methods and their treatment of native peoples. Perhaps the most poignant testimonies come from indigenous sources. Felipe Guaman Poma de Ayala's El Primer Nueva Crónica y Buen Gobierno, written around 1615, contains over 1,000 pages of text and nearly 400 drawings depicting life before, during, and after the conquest from an indigenous perspective. His detailed illustrations provide unique insights into Inca society and the profound changes brought by Spanish rule. The Relation de los Quipicamex represents the testimonies of Inca record keepers, translated and transcribed in the 1540s. These accounts, though filtered through Spanish translators, preserve crucial information about Inca history and the conquest from the indigenous point of view. Recent archaeological discoveries continue to enhance our understanding of the conquest period. Excavations at Cajamarca have revealed evidence of the actual site where Atahualpa was held captive, including Spanish artifacts and modified Inca architecture. The discovery of mass burial sites dating to the conquest period provides tragic evidence of the demographic collapse that followed the Spanish arrival. Particularly significant are findings at converted religious sites. Archaeologists have uncovered Inca ritual objects carefully buried beneath Spanish colonial churches, suggesting active resistance to cultural suppression. These objects, often found in pristine condition, indicate deliberate preservation efforts by indigenous people. The material evidence of the conquest period is extensive. Spanish weapons and armor found at battle sites help confirm historical accounts of military encounters. Inca textiles, ceramics, and metalwork from this period often show signs of hasty burial or concealment, suggesting attempts to preserve cultural items from Spanish destruction or theft. Particularly telling are hybrid artifacts that combine Spanish and Inca elements, demonstrating the complex cultural mixing that occurred in the conquest's aftermath. These include religious items that incorporate both Christian and Inca symbolism, suggesting forms of cultural resistance and adaptation. Spanish and indigenous maps from the period reveal how the territory was reorganized under colonial rule. These documents show the transformation of Inca cities, the establishment of new Spanish settlements, and the reorganization of trade routes. Comparison with pre-conquest Inca spatial organization, as described in various chronicles, reveals how thoroughly the Spanish reshaped the Andean landscape. Modern scientific techniques have added new dimensions to our understanding. DNA analysis of human remains from mass graves confirms accounts of epidemic diseases. Metallurgical studies of gold and silver objects from the period verify Spanish accounts of Inca metalworking capabilities and help trace the flow of precious metals from Peru to Spain. Climate data derived from ice cores and tree rings provides context for environmental conditions during the conquest period, helping explain some of the agricultural and social challenges faced by both sides during this tumultuous time. The evidence continues to grow as new archaeological discoveries and analytical techniques emerge. Each new finding helps complete our picture of this crucial historical moment, reminding us that the story of the Inca conquest is not just about military victory and defeat, but about the complex interaction of cultures and the resilience of human societies in the face of profound change. These various sources, when examined together, provide a multifaceted view of the conquest, helping us understand not just what happened, but how it impacted both societies involved. They stand as testimony to one of history's most significant cultural encounters, preserving the memory of a civilization that, though conquered, was never truly erased. The conquest of the Inca Empire represents one of history's most profound examples of cultural collision, with consequences that continue to reverberate through time. Let's explore the devastating ripple effects that transformed not just South America, but the entire world. The human cost was staggering. Within decades of initial contact, the indigenous population plummeted by an estimated 90%. This catastrophic demographic collapse wasn't just due to direct violence. European diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza ravaged communities that had no natural immunity. Entire villages disappeared, and with them, countless generations of knowledge and tradition. The economic impact reshaped global commerce. The Spanish seized astronomical amounts of gold and silver, Historians estimate the ransom paid for Atahualpa alone would be worth over $100 million today. This massive influx of precious metals into Europe triggered significant inflation, disrupted traditional economies, and fundamentally altered the balance of power among European nations. The wealth extracted from Peru helped finance Spain's wars and colonial expansions, cementing its position as a global superpower. The social fabric of the Andes was completely transformed. The Spanish introduced a rigid caste system based on racial heritage, placing indigenous peoples at the bottom of the social hierarchy. The sophisticated Inca administrative system, which had efficiently managed resources and labor across vast territories, was dismantled. Traditional forms of communal organization were replaced with European-style private property and feudal arrangements. Religious and cultural transformation was equally profound. The Spanish systematically destroyed Inca temples and religious sites, building Catholic churches directly atop sacred spaces. Yet indigenous spiritual practices didn't disappear. They went underground, merging with Catholic traditions to create unique syncretic beliefs that persist today. The Quechua language, though suppressed, survived and remains vital, spoken by millions across the Andes. The environmental impact was significant. Spanish introduction of European farming methods and livestock transformed Andean landscapes. The sophisticated Inca agricultural system of terraced mountainsides fell into disuse, leading to erosion and decreased agricultural productivity. Mining operations, driven by Spanish demand for precious metals, scarred mountainsides and polluted water sources. Political ramifications extended far beyond the immediate conquest period. The Spanish colonial system established patterns of governance and economic dependency that would influence South American politics for centuries. Modern Peru's social and political structures still reflect many colonial-era divisions and inequalities. Yet amid this devastation, remarkable elements of Inca culture survived. Traditional weaving techniques, agricultural practices, and architectural knowledge persisted through generations. Modern Peru's identity draws heavily from its Inca heritage, evident in everything from tourism to national symbols. Indigenous movements across the Andes continue to fight for recognition and rights, drawing inspiration from their Inca ancestors. The conquest's impact on global history cannot be overstated. It contributed to the emergence of modern global capitalism, transformed understanding of world geography, and established patterns of colonial exploitation that would be repeated worldwide. The enormous transfer of wealth from the Americas to Europe helped finance the Industrial Revolution and shaped the modern world economy. Contemporary Peru reflects this complex legacy. Tourist dollars flow to Machu Picchu, while many indigenous communities struggle with poverty. Spanish and Quechua compete in daily life. Traditional healing practices exist alongside modern medicine. The nation grapples with questions of identity, reconciliation, and justice that trace directly back to the conquest. Understanding these impacts helps us comprehend not just historical events, but ongoing struggles for cultural preservation, economic justice, and political representation. The conquest of the Inca Empire wasn't just a 16th century event. It's a continuing process whose consequences shape our world today. This story reminds us that historical events echo through centuries, influencing everything from economic systems to cultural identities. As we examine these impacts, we gain crucial insights into current global challenges and the complex interplay between power, culture, and survival. The early 16th century marked a pivotal moment in human history, as two vastly different civilizations stood at the height of their respective achievements. While Europe was experiencing the transformative power of the Renaissance, the Inca Empire had developed into one of the most sophisticated civilizations ever seen in the Americas. In Europe, this was the age of Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and the flowering of humanism. Cities like Florence and Venice buzzed with artistic and intellectual innovation. Maritime technology was advancing rapidly, enabling unprecedented exploration. The printing press was revolutionizing the spread of knowledge, while gunpowder weapons were transforming warfare. The Protestant Reformation was beginning to challenge the Catholic Church's authority, and new scientific discoveries were reshaping how Europeans understood their world. Meanwhile, in South America, the Inca Empire represented the pinnacle of pre-Columbian civilization. Their engineering achievements were remarkable. The city of Machu Picchu, with its precise stonework and sophisticated water management systems, demonstrated architectural expertise that still amazes modern engineers. Their network of roads, spanning over 39,000 kilometers, connected diverse regions and climates, from coastal deserts to high mountain passes. The Inca agricultural system was equally impressive. Their terraced farming techniques allowed cultivation at extreme altitudes, while their understanding of crop domestication and soil management enabled them to feed millions in challenging terrain. They had developed hundreds of potato varieties and mastered preservation techniques that allowed food storage for years. The Inca social structure was highly organized and efficient. Their decimal administration system managed vast territories without written language, using instead the sophisticated quipu system of knotted cords for record-keeping. They had developed advanced methods of cloth production, metalworking, and medicine. Their astronomical knowledge guided agricultural cycles and religious ceremonies. When these civilizations met, they represented radically different approaches to human achievement. The Europeans brought steel, horses, and gunpowder, technologies that would prove decisive in conquest. The Incas possessed deep understanding of their environment, sophisticated engineering, and agricultural expertise that Europeans would take centuries to fully comprehend. The exchange that followed was profoundly unequal. European diseases devastated Inca populations before significant cultural exchange could occur. Yet some technological and agricultural transfers did take place. Potatoes, one of the Incas' staple crops, would eventually transform European agriculture and demographics. European metallurgy and animal husbandry gradually integrated into Andean life. But what if events had unfolded differently? If the Incas had successfully resisted Spanish conquest, several fascinating possibilities emerge. The Inca Empire might have gradually adopted selected European technologies while maintaining their cultural integrity. Imagine Inca engineers incorporating steel and gunpowder into their already impressive technological repertoire. Their agricultural systems might have been preserved and developed further, potentially offering solutions to modern challenges of sustainable farming in difficult environments. The vast knowledge of medicinal plants and surgical techniques might have combined earlier with European medical traditions, potentially accelerating global medical advancement. Their sophisticated administrative systems might have evolved into a unique form of government, offering alternatives to European models of state organization. The wealth of the Americas might have flowed differently, potentially altering the course of European development and the rise of capitalism. The cultural exchange might have been more balanced, leading to a genuinely hybrid civilization, rather than the largely one-sided influence that actually occurred. Trade routes might have developed differently, possibly leading to direct Inca contact with other civilizations across the Pacific. The religious landscape of South America might have evolved very differently, perhaps creating a unique synthesis of Inca spirituality and Christianity. This historical juncture represents more than just a military conquest. It was a collision between different visions of human civilization. The Inca Empire embodied a sophisticated understanding of living in harmony with challenging environments, while European civilization was driven by technological innovation and expansion. Today, as we face global challenges like climate change and sustainable development, the lost possibilities of this historical moment become particularly poignant. The Inca achievement in building a complex civilization in harmony with their environment offers lessons that might have been learned earlier and more completely had history taken a different course. Understanding this context helps us appreciate both what was lost and what might have been. It reminds us that human civilization can develop along many paths, and that progress doesn't always mean following the same technological and cultural trajectory that emerged from the European Renaissance. The story of these two civilizations meeting at their height remains relevant today, as we grapple with questions of sustainable development, cultural preservation, and the balance between technological progress and environmental harmony. In many ways, the challenges they faced continue to echo in our modern world. Now that we've journeyed through this remarkable tale of conquest and transformation, let's delve deeper into its enduring significance. The story of Pizarro and the Inca Empire continues to captivate minds and spark crucial discussions about power, culture, and human nature. Think about it for a moment. What aspects of this historical event resonate most with you? Perhaps it's the incredible odds that Pizarro and his small band of conquistadors faced. Or maybe it's the tragic irony of how the Inca Empire's own strengths, its centralized authority and religious beliefs, ultimately contributed to its downfall. The lessons from this pivotal moment in history remain remarkably relevant today. Consider how technological advantages can dramatically shift the balance of power, much like Spanish steel and horses did in the 16th century. Reflect on how internal divisions can weaken even the mightiest of civilizations, making them vulnerable to external threats. The story of the Inca conquest raises fascinating questions that we're still grappling with today. How do civilizations adapt when faced with unprecedented challenges? What role does cultural understanding, or misunderstanding, play in shaping historical events? How do societies maintain their identity and traditions in the face of overwhelming change? We've only scratched the surface of this fascinating historical episode. There's so much more to explore about the aftermath of the conquest, the survival of Inca culture, and the lasting impact on modern South America. That's why we're inviting you to join us in this ongoing exploration of history. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What surprised you most about the conquest of the Inca Empire? Which aspects would you like to learn more about? Your perspectives and questions add valuable dimensions to this historical discussion. For history enthusiasts who want to dive deeper into this fascinating period, we've prepared exclusive content available through the links in the description. You'll find detailed maps of the conquest route, in-depth analyses of key battles, and explorations of Inca cultural survival. Remember, history isn't just about memorizing dates and events. It's about understanding the human experience across time, learning from past triumphs and tragedies, and applying these lessons to our present and future. If you found value in this historical journey, consider supporting our mission to bring history to life. Subscribe to Modern Age Chronicles and activate notifications to join us for more fascinating explorations of pivotal historical moments. Share this video with fellow history enthusiasts who might appreciate this remarkable story. Join us next time as we continue uncovering the hidden stories, unexpected connections, and profound lessons that history has to offer. Together, we'll explore how past events continue to shape our world and influence our understanding of human civilization. The past has countless stories waiting to be told, lessons waiting to be learned, and mysteries waiting to be unraveled. We'll see you in our next historical adventure here at Modern Age Chronicles, where history comes alive and the past illuminates our present. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning. The greatest adventures in history are yet to come. Modern Age Chronicles, where the past meets the present, and history never stops teaching us valuable lessons.